Cristiano Ronaldo showed his support for Shara Magomedov ahead of UFC Saudi Arabia by meeting up with him. It was a special moment for Shara, as he used to look up to Ronaldo when he was younger. He said, "I met the entire team, and I also met Cristiano Ronaldo, and we talked for about a half hour. He knows a lot about the UFC, and I can tell he's very well versed in the sport. He said he's going to be coming to the fight and rooting for me. He said I have a lot of potential in the sport and that I'm eventually going to be champion." Before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Shara also opened up about looking up to Michael Bisping, revealing how the former champ inspired him to keep fighting despite his own eye condition.
I needed to tell myself, I needed some sort of motivation to be able to fight in the championships, because I thought that with my condition, I was never going to be allowed to do that. And that's when I started following you, and I saw that you were also having issues with your eyes, but you weren't telling anybody, because I was doing the same thing as you were doing, kind of squinting, hiding it from people.
Yep.
And so I needed to speak to somebody like you to get an advice from you to say, hey, what should I do when I have this issue? But back then I knew zero English. I didn't know any English at all. And I didn't know how to approach you, how to write it to you. And so when I saw what you were able to achieve with your condition, and my condition is very similar, you were a huge motivation for me to even be in the sport in the first place.
Well, I am very humbled by those words. I've seen you say that several times. And yes, thank you for those kind words.
Sean Strickland was not impressed with Khamzat Chimaev's performance against Robert Whittaker, and even referred to Robert Whittaker as a can.
Coming off this, what do you think would be the highest selling fight? A trilogy fight with Dricus, the undefeated Khamzat Chimaev, or Israel if he wins this weekend?
The Khamzat, dude, the Chechen fucking whore, bro.
You want that?
Anybody who fights that guy's gonna get a fucking paycheck, dude. The fucking Chechen whore.
Everyone, says he looks so great against Rob. It's just gonna be a coronation. Like, do you want to prove all the people wrong that he's not all that?
Fucking A, dude. You went hard. You fought a guy who came out really fucking flat. Who doesn't give a fuck. It's like, like Rob is known to either be a fucking superstar or a fucking can, and he was a fucking can. He was just met with too much pressure. It's like, dude. Nah, man, after I'm done with fucking Chimaev, I'm just gonna go back to fucking peddling crypto scams.
Do you think you fight all three of those guys, though? Like, all three of those fights I just said, do you think they happen at some point?
I don't give a fuck. I mean, Chimaev would just be fun just to fucking roast him, Like, who is fucking Chimaev, dude? You fled your shitty fucking country to go have a better life in Sweden. You go back because your family's persecuted. You go back. You suck off of the same fucking dictator who probably made your life a living hell. You become a fucking Chechen whore. He starts pulling the leash on you. He's like, he fucking owns you. The leash gets fucking too tight. You flee to another fucking country, and then you start doing crypto scams. Like, then, dude, yeah, could you mind fight? You could fight, dude, but you're not a fucking man. I know you're not a man. You know you're not a man. The whole fucking world knows you're not a fucking man.
Jake Paul, a PFL ambassador, criticized MMA, stating it's becoming a shittier version of boxing. He argues that MMA is now like kickboxing due to enhanced takedown defenses, and says it's literally kickboxing. Despite being a part of the MMA promotion since January 2023, his comments suggest a negative view of the sport.
MMA is not what it was. That's the truth of the matter. Boxing is bigger than ever.
I agree.
The biggest sporting event of the year in 2024 was boxing, whereas MMA is becoming a shittier version of boxing. Essentially, it's kickboxing, because everyone is getting good takedown defense and everyone's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So there's no more submissions, really. There's not a lot of takedowns, and even if there is, it's fucking boring, but everyone's good at takedown defense. So it's literally kickboxing. Guess who the biggest star of the sport is in MMA? Alex Pereira, who's a kickboxer, because he's knocking everyone out, blah, blah, blah.
It's more entertaining.
And he's the best one because no one can take him down, no one can submit him, so he's just knocking everybody out. But the UFC has less significant strikes per round, and that's with 5-minute rounds. So boxing is going to stand the test of time because it has. It's been, since the 1500s. So 600 years of boxing. I don't think MMA, I'm not long MMA.
Fan disagreed with him, saying things like, "Bro does not watch MMA at all if he thinks this. Past few years especially have been dominated by heavy wrestlers. Alex is the exception, and that's mainly cause of his matchups. In the last 8 UFC fights of UFC 311, there were 3 submission wins. That's 37%, which is more than 1/3. Jake just knows he will never compete in MMA. Submissions are less exciting than KOs, but MMA has plenty. The game's evolving. Pereira hasn't faced an elite level grappler. 20 years from now, the light heavyweight division will be full of them. Do you think Jake Paul has a point, or is he just trolling? Conor McGregor and Paul Hughes are feuding after Hughes seemed to reference McGregor in a post-fight comment to KHABIB Nurmagomedov saying, "I'm not like this other guy, I'm my own man." McGregor responded with insults on social media aimed at Hughes, who replied by questioning McGregor's mental state and praising him. He tweeted, "Always said you were the GOAT, paid homage at every opportunity, but coming at my Irish identity just shows where your head is at." Meanwhile, KHABIB backed Hughes up, calling him a real Irishman and making derogatory comments about McGregor. Conor continued to post and delete. Here are some of the tweets. Dan Hooker laughed off a bar fight story saying, "I'm already 1-0 this year," while previewing his upcoming fight against Justin Gaethje at UFC 313. Hooker used the joke to indicate his readiness for the match.
Assume you've been training really hard over the past couple of weeks. Have you had any days off or anything like that? No?
That was my manager. He called me up and he's like, "It's only 7 weeks." He's like, "Have you been on the piss?"
Yeah, what have you done?
"Have you been on the piss?" I said, "It's been summer." What?
Really?
What do you
So you haven't been training?
No,
I said, "I've been fighting." I said, "I've already 1-0 this year." I want to know down the pub.
So you've been fighting at pubs?
Yeah. Is that the kind of fight, though, that you and Gaethje will have, though? It'll be a toe-to-toe brawl.
It's down the Rotorua pub. Yeah. I'm looking for 2-0. It wasn't a random. It was me and Aaron Toe down the pub.
Yeah.
My manager's like, "Oh, he must have deserved it." I was like, "Nah, he really didn't." I said, "I like this mate's hat." So I took Tenz's hat. I was like, "Nah, I like this hat. This is my hat now." Aaron's like, "Give his hat back." And then in my head, I was like, "Nah, he's got a fair argument." But what came out of my mouth was, "What are you going to do about it?"
Oh, no.
And then bang.
And then a few bang bangs. Got a scar on my knuckle to prove it.
Dan Hooker, everybody.
Dan Hooker.
Dan the Hangman Hooker.
Points.
You think about when you watch your fights, when you have to watch yourself fighting.
Idiot. Absolute numbskull. What are you doing?
Are you harsh on your own critiquing when you watch fight tape
you're
back?
just idiot, because there's a lot of stuff like you obviously know and like technically pretty sound,
Yeah.
and then you see yourself fight and it's just a decision to completely disregard all the skill and knowledge you have.
Yeah,
I've often
right.
thought that'd be the
Yeah.
same with a sex tape.
Yeah.
You watch them and you're like, "Oh yeah," and then but if you watched your own, it wouldn't look that good probably. That's what I thought. Anyway.
Doesn't look that good from that angle.
Not a lot of precision.
Saudi Arabia is set to host its first ever women's UFC bout, marking a significant milestone in the country's sporting landscape. The fighters will wear specially designed Venom fight kits for the occasion. UFC Chief Operating Officer Lawrence Epstein remarked, "This is a sign of the continued growth and acceptance of mixed martial arts. It is worth noting that PFL was the first to host a women's MMA fight, and they wore normal fight kits." You might have missed it, but the UFC's Instagram account got hacked, displaying a fake post about launching a new cryptocurrency coin. The post read, "UFC fans have been waiting, and the moment is here. Get ready to own the legacy, precision, strength, all in one coin. Hashtag UFC unleash the fight." A UFC official confirmed the post is fraudulent, and content linking to the false crypto site has since been removed. Sean O'Malley's coach, Tim Welch, believes MERAB vs. UMAR was closer than people think.
I thought Umar was going to be able to beat MERAB, but MERAB he's a freak show. He's such a gamer. He just comes forward. He doesn't even think about getting tired. Every other fighter on the roster, it's kind of in their mind, fatiguing and pacing yourself for 5 rounds. It's starting to seem like he paces himself a little bit in the first a couple minutes of the fight. He kind of takes it off. He doesn't do a ton. But Umar did a good job. That fight was a lot closer than people think. They think that MERAB really took the fight away and he really beat up Umar. But if you watch that fight without the antics that MERAB does, I'm like, it is a really close fight. That fight could have went either way, but it just shows you how actually good MERAB is, taking out a Nurmagomedov, an undefeated one. And he had injuries during the fight camp. He's a little machine, and he's a severe problem for everyone. But there is ways we can win. And if you're out there and you think there's zero chance that we can win that fight, then you're probably not super smart. So we just got to focus on the areas that we're.
Dricus du Plessis responded to Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker's comments about his unique fighting style.
I advanced, and straight away he just went. So he's just weird, man. He's like the best shit fighter in the world.
Like first 30 seconds, I was like, dude, he's so slow. Like, you know what I mean?
It's like out of nowhere. Like I'm like, bro, he just
dude. But then like then I got punched in the face.
Well, I mean, look at me bringing people together. I don't think that Adesanya and Whittaker ever had real animosity towards each other. It was just so competitive. And now that that's over, it's cool to see how the sport, you know, they both had the same vision. They both wanted to be the best in the world, and you know, they fought twice. Adesanya beating Rob twice. Where I'm in my career right now and where they are in their careers, I think it's two different spaces, and that's why they are able to now train together, because for them, they're not going to fight each other again. So it's amazing to see. I mean, the sport is incredible because you always see these kind of things happen.
What did you think about what they said about your fighting style?
Well, it seems like I still haven't figured it out. So yeah, I don't think it was derogatory. I think it was, well, even if it was, I guess it's irrelevant at this stage. But I do think that they're looking at it going, how did this happen? And I guess that's a good thing.
That's all for today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more MMA content. And if you missed yesterday's news, click the video on the screen to get caught up.